Hello. Ang susunod nating pag-uusapan ay isang example ng material balances involving a physical process, and we're still with single unit process. And this is your distillation. So distillation is the separation of mixtures based on the differences in volatility. So ano ibig sabihin nun? You have a mixture, let's say a feed containing components A and B, meron silang magkaibang volatility kasi meron silang magkaibang boiling point. Let's say component A has an earlier boiling point, maybe 40 degrees Celsius, and component B will have a later boiling point, let's say 80 degrees Celsius. Because of that, you will be able to separate component A from B. Tama ba? By applying temperature. So, si distillation, mayroon kang feed mixture, let's say nga A and B, but sometimes or most of the time actually, meron kang multi-component distillation. Kumbaga, hindi lang dadalawa ang component mo. So, the feed mixture is two or more components and we separate them into two or more products, including but not limited to, okay, yung tinatawag nating distillate and yung bottoms. Okay? So, si distillate, if you have a two-component system, you will expect that it will have more of A and less of B kasi hindi mo talaga completely masiseparate si A and B. Okay? But in your distillate, you can harvest, you can recover most of A and a little of B, while in your bottoms, you will have more of B and less of A. Now, sometimes you can have side streams as well. Okay? But for the sake of our discussion, let's say na distillate and bottoms lang ang meron tayo. So distillation, it's way downstream after your bioreactor if you're considering distillation as a downstream process, okay? So let's say nagkaroon ka ng ethanol fermentation. So after ethanol fermentation, kailangan, 'di ba? Usually nakakita ito sa winery or sa brewery. After the fermentation, you have to distill yung ethanol. So you have to separate ethanol from water. Okay? So dyan pumapasok si distillation. And also it's used in other industries such as in oil and gas, 'di ba? Yung ating crude oil na tinatawag. Okay, it's a mixture of many components and you can separate each individual component because of their differences in boiling points or differences in volatility. So at let's say 20 degrees Celsius, masa-separate mo yung yung lower molecular weight hydrocarbons, maybe methane or ethane, right? At higher temperature, mahiwalay mo na si gasoline, and then at higher temperature pa, maybe si kerosene, and then maybe at around 200 degrees Celsius, you can separate diesel oils. At 270 degrees Celsius, you can separate lubricating oils. And at a higher temperature, fuel oils and even the residue sa pinakahuli, right? So we call that fractional distillation because of the sometimes tiny differences in the volatilities of the components in your feed. Still, we were able to separate yung mga components nito. Okay, so let's have an example. So we have here a mixture containing 20% benzene, 50% toluene, so these are by weight, and 30% xylene. And to be separated into a distillate containing, okay, among others, 1% xylene, and a bottoms product containing 1% benzene. So again, that mixture, you separate it into two, distillate, okay, and see bottoms. All right. So si distillate, sabi the 1% xylene among others. Ibig sabihin, meron pa siyang benzene pa, meron pa siyang toluene pa. And si bottoms, meron siyang 1% benzene. It will still have toluene, it will still have xylene, but we don't know yung kanyang composition of these two. Okay? Now, another important given here is that si benzene recovery daw in the distillate is 98%. Okay, so whatever benzene that you have in your feed, 98% of that will be recovered in the distillate. So the question here is determine the composition of the distillate and the bottoms. Okay, so let's answer this one. So let me open a blank page here and let's try to draw okay, or show in a flow sheet yung ating problem. So you have a distillation unit, okay. Let me use black in this case. So meron tayong distillation unit, okay. Okay, I tend to use this symbol. And then meron kang feed. So ito yung feed mo. We'll use letter F, and it contains it contains what? 20% of benzene, okay, 50% toluene, and 30% xylene. Okay, BTX. Now we separate it into two streams, okay, only. So the one above our drawing is yung distillate, okay. So just for you to remember, this is distillate, okay. And let me use the symbol W for the bottoms. Normally I would use the letter B, but since ang component niya ay BTX and I will just use the letter B for benzene, so I'll just use another symbol for the bottoms. Okay, so another important data, all right, na sinabi sa problem is that yung benzene recovery, so yung benzene recovery here at the distillate, okay, in distillate is equal to 98%. 98%. So later on, we will express that mathematically. Okay. So, what is the required here? So, ano yung gusto nating i-solve? So, we're trying to solve for, sabi sa ating PowerPoint kanina sa problem, the percent composition. Percent composition of the distillate and the bottoms. Now, if you notice, hindi tinatanong kung gaano kadaming distillate and gaano kadaming bottom. Percent composition lang nila ang tinatanong. And that is actually correct kasi yung F natin, wala naman siyang given dyan na amount or na value, right? Okay, so depending on the amount of F, okay, of course, because of the material balance or because of the conservation of mass, okay, kung ano yung laman or amount ni F, nakadepende doon ang amount ni D at ni W. So let's say si F is 100 kg, so si D and W, meron silang amounts. If F has a different amount, let's say 200 pounds, then D and W amounts will also change. Okay? So let's start with the basis of our calculation. Okay? So what will be a good basis for our material balance calculation? So, tingnan nyo, walang given na feed amount, but we can probably put here a basis of, ano maganda, let's say 100 pounds, perhaps. Okay? 100 pounds of feed. So, hindi talaga 100 pounds yung feed. So, ina-assume lang natin na 100 pounds. Kasi later on, kapag kinalculate natin yung required, which is percent composition ni D and W, so whatever amount of feed ang meron ka, 200 pounds man yan or 500 pounds or maybe even in kilograms, the percent composition of D and W will change. Okay? Will not change rather. The amount of D and W may change depending on your given feed, but their percent composition will be constant. Okay, so that will be our basis. Di ba nga, ang sabi ko dati, ang basis mo, let's say if you put here that kind of basis, you can make a basis doon sa stream kung saan known yung mga components or yung composition, okay, most of the components known yung kanyang percentage. So, after that, we can now go to our overall material balance. So basically, if you take a look at the chart, it's just F equals D plus W. Tama ba? Okay. So we have already a base of 100 pounds of the feed. So let's go ahead and substitute. F equals 100 equals D plus W. So ito yung ating unang equation. Okay, so after the overall balance, anong susunod? Siyempre, component balance na tayo, right? But which component are we going to have or anong component ang gagawan natin ng balance? Okay? So component balance. So which component? Is it the benzene, toluene, xylene? So normally, di ba, in our previous examples, kahit ano, right? But here, anong maganda? Siyempre, if you notice, okay, by the way, si bottoms natin, hindi ko na lagay yung given pati si distillate, right? So sabi, ang distillate natin ay 1% X or 1% si xylene. Okay? Yung amount ni benzene or percentage of benzene, hindi natin alam. Yung percentage ni toluene, hindi rin natin alam. Doon din kay bottoms. Ang given sa problem, 1% daw yung benzene. Pero hindi natin alam kung ilan yung toluene. Hindi natin alam kung ilan yung xylene. Okay? So, ano ang magandang component ang gagawa natin ng balance? If you say maybe what? Toluene. So it won't be a very good candidate for us to make a component balance. Although we know the percentage of toluene, we do not know the percentage of toluene in the distillate. We do not know also the percentage of toluene in the bottoms. Okay, so ang pinakamaganda, perhaps, okay, is to make benzene balance. Okay, so benzene balance. So for benzene balance, anong gagawin natin? Diba, it's simply what? Okay, so benzene in F equals benzene in the distillate plus benzene in the bottoms. Okay? But benzene in F is what? Diba, ano siya? Sabi sa given, 0.2 or 20% of F. Okay? Equals benzene in the distillate. So ito na yung sasabi natin kanina na benzene recovery. So sabi sa problem, ang benzene recovery ay 98%. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, 98% ng benzene sa feed na recover sa distillate. Alright? So mathematically, we can express that. So let me probably use a different color. So mathematically, ang ano niya, how do you express that? Diba? How many benzene, what is the amount of benzene that you have in the feed? So that's 0.2 times F, right? This is the amount of B in F. Okay? But we have a basis of 100 pounds of feed, right? So that will be equal to 0.2 of 100. So that's equal to ilan yan? 20 pounds. Okay? So mathematically, how do we express yung benzene recovery? So 98%. So 0.98, okay, times benzene in F, which is 20. Okay? Yan yung benzene in the distillate. Okay? Benzene in the distillate. So 0.98 times 20. So ilan yan? Let's compute. 0.98 times 20. That will become 19.6. Okay? So we'll get 19.6. So this B and D here, benzene in the distillate ang ibig sabihin, pwede natin siyang substitute dito sa ating equation sa baba. So 19.6. Okay. Plus B and in W. So ano naman yung B in W? How do we express that? So yung B sa W, benzene sa W, benzene sa bottoms, given naman yung kanyang composition. So that's 1%. So 1% means 0.01, right? 0.01 times W. Okay, 0.01 times W. Okay, so ano pa ang pwede natin gawin? Yung F natin, di ba? Again, meron siyang value which is 100. So we substitute that, 19.6 plus 0.01 W. And if you notice, isa na lang ang unknown natin, di ba? Which is W. So therefore, if you're going to compute W, will be equal to, let's use our calculator, 40. Tama ba? 40 pounds. And si ating distillate, okay, how do we compute this? So kung 40 pounds si W, okay, so if this is your equation 1, our overall material balance, and we know that, okay, it's 100 equals D plus our W is 40. So therefore, D is 60 pounds. Okay, so this is now the amount of your bottoms and your distillate. Again, if your basis is 100 pounds of feed. Okay, kasi if, again, I'm emphasizing this, no? Kapag hindi 100 pounds yung base mo, if you chose another base, let's say 1 pound lang or 1,000 pounds or whatever, any value, right? Mag-iiba yung value ng W tsaka ni D. Okay, but that's okay because hindi naman yan tinatanong sa problem. Tinatanong is percent composition sa W tsaka si distillate. And again, the percent composition will not change regardless of your basis. So, in other words, we're not done. Okay, so let's consider first the distillate and then later the bottoms para mahanap natin yung percent composition ng bawat isa. So let's consider first yung distillate. So just for the sake of presentation, let me use an entirely different color. Consider the distillate. Okay. So just to review, so distillate, okay, it's 1% X, but we don't know the amount of benzene and the amount of toluene. Actually, we know already the amount of benzene, which is this one, right? The benzene in distillate is 19.6. Okay, so si toluene na lang palang unknown dyan. And that will be pretty easy because we now know, based on our calculations, the amount of D. Okay, so let us do that. In terms of an equation, so let's do it this way. So the amount, which is 60, okay, or let me just use the variables first. D, or yung total amount of distillate, is the sum of the following: benzene, okay, benzene in D plus benzene, plus toluene in D, tama ba? Plus xylene in distillate. So the amount of distillate is 60, right? Now benzene in D, we have that value. So benzene in D is 19.6. Plus toluene in the distillate, we don't have yet, right? Di pa natin alam, unknown yan. Pero yung xylene in the distillate, we have that, right? It's 1% of the distillate. So 1%. So that's 0.01 times 60. Okay. So ang tanging unknown na lang dito ay toluene in distillate. Okay. So if you do your math, okay, isa lang ang unknown dyan, you will get 13.8. Okay, 13.8 pounds. All right, so kompleto na si toluene in distillate, benzene in distillate, and xylene in distillate. Okay, let's tabulate this. So this is your BTX, the components. Okay, again, this is under the distillate. So ang amount ni benzene, 19.6. Kay toluene, ito yung na-compute natin na 39.8. And kay xylene, di ba, sabi ko nga, 1% of 60, 1% of the distillate. So ito yun, right? And that will be equivalent to 0.6. So the total, okay, if you will check, it will be equal to 60, of course, no? Which is what we have calculated here. Now, I want it to be in percent, okay? So percent composition. Okay, so what you will do is simply divide yung value or yung amount over 60, right? So 19.6 divided by 60, 32.7% yan. Next, 39.8 over 60, that will be 66.3%. And 0.6 over 60, we don't have to do that because alam natin na sa given na 1% yung xylene, so that's 1%. So that will be, if you are going to check, it will become 100%. So this is now the answer. Okay? Yan yung answer. Yan yung percent composition ng distillate natin. Percent B, percent T, and percent X. But that is just the distillate. So hindi pa tayo tapos. Kailangan pa natin consider yung bottoms. Okay? So considering the bottoms, okay, consider bottoms. Okay, so paano ang diskarte sa bottoms natin? So if you have, okay, sabi natin yung benzene, yung benzene sa ating bottoms ay 1%. Okay, so therefore we can write it here na ang benzene sa bottoms, sabi natin 1%, 0.01 of, what's the amount of bottoms? So ang bottoms natin ay, you know, W, which is ilan? 40. Okay, so this is equivalent to 0.4. Okay, so if we are going to perform component balance, okay, so let's say toluene balance. So toluene is T balance. And why am I doing this? Kasi if we're going to make a toluene balance, okay, meron ka namang percent toluene sa feed. Meron ka bang percent toluene sa D? Meron na, tapos na, di ba? When we consider the distillate, we know already the amount of toluene in the distillate. Okay? Ang wala na lang, all right, is yung toluene sa bottom. So if we know the toluene in the feed and the toluene in the distillate, we'll be able to calculate the toluene in the bottoms. At ganoon din later on, gagawin natin naman yung sa xylene. Okay, so let's start first with the toluene balance. So toluene balance, again, it's 0.50. Sabi sa given, 50% daw ng feed ay toluene, so 0.50 F equals toluene in D plus toluene in the bottoms. Okay, substituting, so 0.50, ano ba yung F natin? 100, di ba? Equals toluene in D. Saan natin makakita yon? Diba ito? That's the toluene in the distillate. So that's 39.8. Plus toluene in the bottom. So ito yung natitirang unknown natin. So therefore, toluene in the bottoms is equal to, if you're going to compute, 10.2. Okay, so tapos na yung toluene. Xylene naman tayo. Xylene balance. Okay, so expressing it mathematically, 0.30 of F equals, ano ba yung xylene sa distillate? Okay. Again, 1% siya. 1% of D. But we know that value already. Ito yun, 0.6, right? So, okay, 0.6. Okay, isulat ko na lang siya muna in words, no? Xylene in the distillate plus xylene in bottoms. Okay, so again, substituting 0.30, F is 100. Xylene in the distillate, meron tayo niyan, which is this. Okay, so that's 0.6. So ang unknown na lang ay xylene in the bottoms, which is yun yung kailangan natin para makuha yung percent composition noong bottom. So xylene in the bottoms. So therefore, xylene in W, do your math, it will give you what? 29. Tama ba? 29.4. So you need this and you need this. Toluene and xylene. And yung benzene naman, meron naman tayo nun, right? Benzene in your bottoms. Okay? Which is this one. So those three values will make up the composition of your bottom. So tabulating BTX, ang amount nila for benzene, 0.4, right? Pounds. For toluene, 10.2. For xylene, that's 29.4. Kapag inad mo yan, expect mo na ang makuha mo ay 40 pounds. Okay? But in terms of percent composition, okay, so all you have to do again is divide 0.4 or divide each number or value by 40. Pero si 0.4, kahit na hindi mo na gawin yun kasi given naman na 1% siya. Okay, in the bottom. So 10.2 divided by 40, that will become 25.5%. And si xylene, that's 29.4 divided by 40, it will give you 73.5%. And that should add up to 100%. And this, guys, is the answer. Okay? So yan yung answer. So we have done both yung kay bottoms at yun kay distillate. At yun naman yung hinahanap sa ating problem.